right, the other important story that we're tracking and covering on India Sense, chaos is a new currency in Myanmar, one that China is more than willing to spend. Beijing has a foot in both camps, arming Myanmar's generals while fueling the insurgents against them. The consequences are already being felt in the entire region. As the strife bleeds into neighbouring territories, India is no longer just watching from the sidelines. It's building walls, it's reinforcing defences, bracing for impact, but at the same time ensuring that there is a dialogue that is taking place with all stakeholders. Take a look at this report.
In Myanmar, chaos is no longer a byproduct of conflict. It's part of China's strategic playbook. With its carrot and stick policy, Beijing is walking a fine line, engaging with both the military junta and Myanmar's ethnic armed groups. It's extending economic incentives to the ruling junta and also arms those fighting against it, creating a volatile, controlled chaos.
China has a great deal at stake, both in terms of its business interests and the fact that it's very significant border interests with Myanmar.
But this is not a game without consequences for the larger region. The writing is on the wall, and New Delhi is bracing for the fallout. India's northeastern states, already plagued by border vulnerabilities, are on high alert as the scepter of more Rohingya refugees fleeing Myanmar grows even more likely. Desperation is pushing more refugees out while Myanmar's civil conflict deepens. The porous and long India-Myanmar border has already seen waves of migrants in recent years, many fleeing violence and repression. According to New Delhi's estimates, around 40,000 Rohingya refugees have already fled to India amid the conflict, including 22,500 registered with the UN Refugees Agency. Now, as China's hand in Myanmar grows bolder, New Delhi fears a fresh influx could overwhelm its security. The situation is a powder keg, and India is not a sitting duck. New Delhi is reinforcing its defences with urgency. Fencing along the 1,643-kilometre-long India-Myanmar border is expanding, with a newly completed 9.2-kilometre stretch in the critical town of Manipur's Muri. This is more than just a line of steel. It's a bold statement that India will not sit idly by as Myanmar's instability seeps into its territories. As the government pushes forward with fencing and enhanced surveillance systems in places like Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram and Nagaland, it's clear that New Delhi is determined to lock down its borders. The Assam Rifles are working round the clock to implement a hybrid surveillance system with real-time monitoring capabilities to spot illegal crossings and potential security threats. India's efforts go beyond just physical barriers. With a 1,472-kilometre stretch already demarcated and more fencing projects in the pipeline, India is not just building walls, it's reinforcing its commitment to long-term security and regional stability. The carrot and stick approach may be China's strategy, but for India, it's all about building an unyielding wall of defense to keep chaos at bay.